The meeting will now come to order. Welcome to this meeting of the Charlotte Unified Development Board of Adjustment on Tuesday, July 30th, 2024. My name is Deborah Dryden, and I'm chair of the board. Would the board members please go around and state their name for the record? Something new.
Amy Sun.
Kevin Sherry.
Marshall Williamson.
So we have a 4-member quorum, so we will continue. Also present are Solomon Fortune, our zoning administrator, Lisa McCarter, the planning program manager, John Kinley, senior project manager, Crystal Monsegur, the planner, Kamisha Lampley, the clerk to the board, Jill Sanchez Myers, senior assistant city attorney, advisor to the board, Therese Hagler Gray, senior assistant city attorney, advisor to the board, Nicole Hewitt, assistant city attorney, advisor to the board, Candy Thomas, Veritex court reporter.
Madam Chair, just a quick rephrase. Ms. Hagler Gray is an advisor to the planning department.
Okay, advisor to the planning department. Okay, that's not what my notes say, but that's okay. I'm making the correction. Okay. Okay. Each of today's hearings is a quasi-judicial evidentiary hearing. That means it is like a court hearing. State law sets specific procedures and rules concerning how the board must make its decision. These rules are different from other types of land use decisions like rezoning cases. The board's discretion is limited. The board must base its decision upon competent, relevant, and substantial evidence in the record. A quasi-judicial decision is not a popularity contest. It is a decision constrained by the standards in the ordinance and based on the facts presented. If you will be speaking as a witness, please focus on the facts and ordinance standards, not personal preference or opinion. General witness testimony is limited to facts. For certain topics, this board needs to hear opinion testimony from expert witnesses. These topics include projections about impacts on property values and projections about impacts of increased traffic. Individuals providing expert opinion must be qualified as expert and provide the factual evidence upon which they base their expert opinion. While hearsay evidence is not specifically excluded, it is only given limited weight. Parties with standing have rights to participate fully. Parties may present evidence, call witnesses, and make legal arguments. Parties are limited to the applicant, the city, and individuals who can show they will suffer special damages. Other individuals may provide testimony as witnesses when recognized by the board. Witnesses must swear or affirm their testimony, and any individual wishing to speak as a witness today was required to sign up. If you haven't done so, please do so now. The parties to each case are entitled to an impartial decision maker. A board member may not participate in a hearing if they have a fixed opinion about the matter, a financial interest in the outcome of the matter, or a close familial business or associational relationship with an affected person. The parties to each case also have a right for any ex parte communication to be disclosed. Ex parte communication is any communication about the case outside of the hearing that may include site visits as well as conversations with parties or the general public. At the start of each case, any potential conflict of interest or ex parte communication shall be disclosed by a board member if applicable. These matters may also be raised by any affected party. Today's meeting will follow the order printed on the agenda. The order of the regular agenda will be as follows. All parties who plan to give testimony must be sworn in. A city staff member will present a summary of the case. The board may question the staff member, and then the applicant may question the staff member. The applicant presents their testimony for the case, and any sworn witnesses provided testimony. The board and city staff may question the applicant and their witnesses. Other parties wishing to speak for or against a case will be given reasonable time to present sworn testimony. The staff and then the applicant will be given an opportunity for rebuttal. After hearing each case, the board will review each case and render a decision. This is usually done in closed deliberations after hearing each case. The chairperson calls for a motion and a second to approve or deny the variance or appeal. In the case of an appeal, the chairperson calls for a motion and a second to uphold, modify, or reverse the administrator's decision. The decision will be made by a simple majority vote of the board. However, the board may elect to take up to 30 days to render a decision. You may remain present during the deliberations, or you may call the zoning staff after the session to receive the decision of the board. If you wish to receive a written copy of the decision letter, please indicate so on the sign-in sheet. All exhibits must remain with the board. If your case is not appealed to Superior Court after 30 days, you may pick them up or they will be destroyed. Appeal from this board is to the Mecklenburg County Superior Court. You have 30 days from the date of the board's written decision in which to appeal in accordance with NCGS 160D-405D. And we welcome our fifth board member to the, will you introduce yourself, please?
Good morning. My name is Gary Young.
Thank you very much. We now open the evidentiary hearing for, and board members, we are going to hear the variance 2024-00025 that is moved to the regular agenda. So we're going to hear that first, and then we'll come back to the recommended agendas. So the very first one, this one. Oh, we did this last time. So we now open the evidentiary hearing for variance 2024-00025. The property is located at 3212 Weston Street. Before we begin, does any board member have a conflict of interest or potential conflict for any ex parte communication they need to disclose? At this time, I'll administer the oath for individuals who intend to provide witness testimony. Ready? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the evidence you shall give to the board in this action shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you, Mr. McKinley. You may continue.
All right. So this is a variance case 2024-00025 for EV Properties LLC, represented by James Malatesta for property at 3212 Weston Street, and it's owned by Charlotte RE LLC. There's three variance requests as part of this one variance. First is to request to eliminate the required landscape Class B 25-foot wide on the eastern and northern property line. It's basically a buffer, in other words, and then a reduction of a setback abutting N1 place type from 20 feet to 5 feet, and a reduction of the side setback abutting N1 place type from 10 feet to 5 feet. And then condition that the applicant will replace the existing chain link fence between the property and abutting parcel with a 6-foot high screening fence with vines running up it. I do have a slight modification to the condition that I would propose is that we got information that the chain link fences may actually be located on the neighboring property. So they should either coordinate with that neighbor to replace the existing chain link fence to something that is agreeable to both parties, or provide a new 6-foot high screen fence on their property between the parcels. So the property is located near South Boulevard off of Weston Street in the neighborhood to the east of the Blue Line station, and the nearest transit station is the New Bern station, which is right here on the map. The parcel is currently vacant. There's a row of duplexes on Weston Street. This lot's vacant, then a corner lot with a single family home on it. And then as you turn the corner onto the other street, there's a couple other single family homes and duplexes in the area. The current zoning is TOD-NC, Transit Neighborhood Center Zoning District. And that zoning extends from basically this parcel here all the way over to the single family home around the corner, and these single family homes as well are zoned TOD NC. The parcels across the street are a mixture of N2B, which is basically a multifamily zoning district, and then N1B, which across the side street here, which is a single family, essentially residential zoning district or lower density residential zoning district. And then the properties over here are TOD UC, which is the more intense transit-oriented development zoning district. There's another view of the aerial showing the area. You can see there's some townhomes down here in this N2 zoning. I'm not sure what's being developed over here off of South Boulevard in the TOD zoned area. And then here's the duplexes, our subject parcel, some single family homes, a couple other duplexes and single family homes across the street. That's just a zoomed in picture of the aerial. You can also see that there's some overhead power lines. I think those will get mentioned as we go along with our presentation, but those are along the eastern and rear property lines. Here's a kind of a bird's eye picture. This shows the single family house at the corner and their accessory structure, and then this single family home here, and their yard extends out this way. And then this is the lot that is in question. And again, this is where that fence is, the fence line and overhead utilities, and then overhead utility with some trees back here in the back. So the variance is the request to eliminate a required landscape yard. It's Class B, 25-foot landscape yard on the eastern and northern side of the property lines abutting an N1 place type, and the reduction of the rear setback abutting N1 place type from 20 feet to 5 feet, which would be a 15-foot reduction, and then reduction of the side setback abutting N1 from 10 feet to 5 feet, which would be a 5-foot reduction. And then the condition that the applicant replace the existing chain link fence between the property and with a 6-foot high screen fence with vines running up it. And then if you look in the findings document, we do clarify or specify that the fence should have a 75% minimum opaque screening with vines, and the finished side should face the abutting properties. And again, just to note that that fence that's in question, the existing chain link fence, might be on the neighbor's property, so they can either work together to come to a solution for that to replace it, or they can build this required fencing on their own property.
Oh, may I ask, if they build it on their own property, does that impact any of the setbacks that they're requesting be diminished?
If they put the fence pretty much right on the property line, it shouldn't impact the setbacks that they would have to, provide against the property line. It would just mean that they would basically have a physical barrier between the two properties. So if they set the fence back off of the property line, then that would potentially reduce some of the amount that they have on their property for access and whatnot around the building.
Okay, thank you.
So this is a survey showing the impacts of the setbacks and the buffer, particularly the buffer, because that's the buffer required is 25 feet, or the landscape yard as it's called in the UDO. So the UDO requires a 25-foot landscape yard abutting N1 place type, and the single family home to the back and the single family home to the right is all N1 or neighborhood 1 place type, and I'll show a map of that in a second. But that basically is triggering a 25-foot yard or setback essentially in this area here in the blue, which reduces the buildable area to this area in green, which is about 64 feet deep and 41 feet wide. And I'll show you a picture. So this is the survey again, just showing where the proposed building would sit. Originally, they had shown a 1.5 foot setback off the rear. Again, they've agreed to do a 5-foot setback on this rear and a 5-foot setback on the side. Property is in close proximity to the light rail station. It's about 0.36 of a mile. So it's in an area where we would expect to see transit-oriented development. And again, here's the zoning, and the zoning shows all this area, single family homes included, zoned as transit oriented development neighborhood center. And here's the policy map that's adopted by city council. It shows the two duplexes and the vacant lot as neighborhood center. The other two duplexes are community activity center. So those are both place types that we expect to see in transit oriented development areas, depending on the intensity of the development. And then the single family homes that are along Greystone, those are neighborhood 1 place type. Even though they have a higher zoning, they're zoned for higher intensity uses. This is the draft policy map. As you all have probably heard, the planning department is working on revisions to the policy map. Those would be presented to council at sometime in 2025. So this has not yet been adopted. This is their draft, and in their draft, they got feedback that the parcels that were already zoned transit-oriented development, so they're zoned for something more intense, should have a policy recommendation for a future land use that reflects the zoning. So the staff has said, yes, we think that this would be a good change to the policy map to change these parcels to neighborhood or from neighborhood 1 place type to the transit-oriented development, not the transit-oriented development, to the neighborhood center place type to better match the zoning that's on the ground. But again, this hasn't gone through a public review process, so it could be subject to change, and it wouldn't be presented to council until sometime in 2025.
John, is that new zoning change setbacks?
So the reason why the change in the place type would be important here is that the place type is triggering the 25-foot landscape yard, and it's also triggering the larger setbacks, the 20-foot rear yard and 10-foot side yard. If it wasn't for those parcels having let me go back one slide. If these two parcels were not recommended for neighborhood 1 place type, then the buffer would go away, the buffer requirement would go away, and this setback requirements would go away.
Totally go away.
Yeah, there'd be no minimum setback against the property line. So we do think that the proposed 5-foot setbacks is a good compromise between what's the ordinance requires versus what would be required if the place types were changed already.
Gotcha. Thank you.
The standards for granting a variance, as you know, all 4 of these need to be shown to be met in order for you all to grant a variance. Our findings are that the unnecessary hardship would result from the strict application of the regulations, as the lot is small and the landscape yard would reduce the buildable area of the lot by 3,897 feet, which is almost half of the total lot area. Hardship does result from conditions that are peculiar to the property. Due to the small size of the TOD NC development, the parcel is located less than a half mile from the Dunbar Transit Station on the Lynx Blue Line, and it's zoned and recommended for transit-oriented development. And the subject property is zoned TOD NC, which is the same as the abutting parcels that the subject property must buffer from, even though the zoning is the same. And the place type of the abutting properties triggers the 25-foot buffer. Hardship does not result from actions that are taken by the applicant or the property owner, because the hardship result is the result of location and size of the lot and the recommendation of the policy map, which is different from the zoning of the abutting properties. And the requested variance is consistent with the spirit and purpose intent of the ordinance regulations, such that public safety is secured and substantial justice is achieved. The abutting parcels, though currently developed with single-family homes, are zoned for transit-oriented development as part of the 2019 TOD alignment rezoning effort, and that aligned the zoning of the with the recommendations of the transit station area plans, which predated the comprehensive plan and the policy map. It's unlikely that the abutting zoned parcels that are zoned TOD NC, it's unlikely that those would be downzoned in one to match the policy map, as they are located in an area that has seen transition from traditional development to transit-oriented development over the decade. And the applicant has agreed to conditions to, we'll modify this to say, agreed to condition to provide a screen fence along the property line, 6 foot high with vines. So those are the findings for the reduction of the landscape yard. The reduction of the setbacks are as follows. Unnecessary hardship would result from strict application of the regulations. Although TOD NC development would allow 0 setbacks from the lot lines, if the site were not abutting in one place type, the intent of the ordinance is to provide building separation from single family uses. And due to the size of the lot, strict application of the ordinance, a 10-foot side and a 20-foot rear would result in an unnecessary hardship. A setback of 5 feet is the same as a side setback in single family zoning. So rather than originally requested 1.5 feet, they've agreed to 5 feet to provide the adequate building separation. The only place the proposed building would not meet the 5-foot setbacks are in 2 corners along the rear of the building, and the applicant could adjust the building plan to provide a setback of 5 feet on the right side and rear side of the site. And I'll show you where that is. A quicker way to go backwards. Let's work there. So at the back corner, there's a couple places where they would not, as it's currently designed, not meet that 5-foot rear. So they will need to modify their building plan slightly to provide a 5-foot rear setback here. But that's just the little corner of the building, so they should be able to figure that out.
John, is this a duplex, a single family? What are they proposing to build
To
here?
meet the TOD zoning, it would need to have at least 5 units in it.
In that drawing, you said it was, they're gonna have to edit it.
Yeah, they're gonna need to make sure that it meets, if you all grant the variance of 5 feet on the rear, they would need to modify the rear of the building line so that that corner doesn't encroach into that 5-foot rear setback.
And tell me again what they're looking for between the adjacent properties.
It'd be 5 feet here and 5 feet here. And right now this does show 10, so that they could go closer. There's an overhead power line that I mentioned before.
Mhm.
So if they're able to relocate or bury the power lines, then they could potentially bring the building closer to the side property line here, up to 5 feet if you all granted the variance. Let's see, where was I? Yes, the hardship does result from conditions that are peculiar to the property. The parcel is a small size. It's, I think it's just under 2/10 of an acre, and it has a 10-foot side setback and a 20-foot rear setback would reduce the building envelope width from 72 feet down to 62 feet, and the depth from 70 feet to from 90 feet to 70 feet. The hardship did not result in actions taken by the applicant or the property owner because the small lot size and adjacency to neighborhood 1 place types would require larger setbacks and reduce the building envelope. And the requested variance is consistent with the spirit and purpose and intent of the regulations, such that public safety is secured and the substantial justice is achieved. Setback reduced to 1.5 feet could result in impacts to abutting single family homes and not be enough space for access around the building. However, a setback that's reduced to 5 feet would provide enough separation from the abutting single family homes to accommodate access to the perimeter of the building and maintenance of the yard. And there's a picture of the sign on the property, and this is a wood screen fence, but it changes. There's a bit of chain link that's down off the screen here, right here, just so you all know what chain link fence we're talking about. And that concludes my presentation. And we do have speakers here in favor and in opposition.
John, I have a question for you first. On the finding of facts, number 5, that explains what you explained to me earlier, is that correct?
Budding parcels to the east and north at 312 and 318 Greystone Road are also Zone 2D NC. However, the 2040 policy map recommends N1 place type because it recognizes the existing single-family land use. Yeah, so because the policy map is recognizing those existing single-family homes, it's recommending the neighborhood 1 place type, which is then triggering the larger setbacks and the buffer requirement.
That will explain it thoroughly.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So if I'm correct, I'm hearing, don't worry about the 2040 policy map because it really should be something different. So you spend all this time on a 2040 policy map, but then tell us not to recognize it? Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, I think what we're saying is that the zoning on the ground doesn't align with the policy map. And at least from what we've done or the work that planning has done so far, it is unlikely that we would downzone the property to match the policy map's current recommendation, that it's more likely that we will be revising the policy map to match the zoning.
Likely revising the policy map means what to us today?
To you all today, it means that there's been some planning work already completed that would indicate that there's reasons to change the policy map to match the zoning rather than the current land use that's on the ground. And
Has that law been created or that ordinance been created today?
it's not been adopted yet. The changes in the policy map have not been adopted, and they will not be until at least 2025.
Okay, Solomon, we'll swear you in. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right.
So, Mr. Williamson, it's not that we don't want to acknowledge what happened is we adopted the policy map just when we adopted the comp plan with UDO. So kind of what's happened is when our comp plan team went out there and started looking at plan shows, they basically took what was existing on the ground. So you saw a lot of single family, but now what's happening is we gave them that N1, gave them that single family protection. But now what has happened is we are starting to see these little inconsistencies in the map where you will see something got N1 place type, but the zoning is not matching with the place type. So what we're trying to do is to make sure that in this next phase coming up in 2025, as John's has mentioned, that we get it to start matching up so that way, one, this property who's coming in, he's getting hit with some requirements because he's abutting a neighborhood 1 place type. But the reality is in 2025, if he waited, for example, if he waited a year and a half, we would update it to like that N2, whatever, or N2, or we go to that, as John mentioned, the place type for TFE. And then he wouldn't have that issue. So that's where right now we're just kind of in these gray areas as we're trying to be. Same way I think about like with the UDO, we got it adopted. Now you're going to start seeing this fine tune because we start seeing things being brought to us by staff, the public, elected officials.
So in this version, we recognized the existing single family land use next door. But in the new version, you're going to not recognize the existing land use.
Well, we will update the policy map to match. So again, we're going to recognize it's single family, but we're going to update that policy map, the place type map, to represent TMD.
So what would happen in the future if there's an existing land use that somebody built a new house or whatever on the single family lot? Are you gonna recognize their right to be next to a single family lot or have that buffer
So
if they invested substantially in the corner lot, let's say? And now you're recognizing their investment in their rights now, but in the future, are you gonna just do away with those?
So when you say rights, it's not that we would be taking development rights away. What would happen is, as part of those development standards in the UDO, it would recognize that it's the same place type for abutting the same place type. And so the triggers that John mentioned, the buffer wouldn't be triggered.
I guess I'm thinking about the devaluation of the corner lot,
That's what I was thinking.
meaning they have a buffer today. But in the future, there may be a 5-foot buffer which may devalue that property and takes away sort of what they built their property with in mind, with what they had in mind.
So when you say I guess it's hard for us as zoning to say there's a value. So what I would say is they have TOD zoning right now. They could tear that single family home down, and if they can meet the requirements and build this, basically go up and get more density on that parcel. So,
But if they built something 2 years ago or 3 years ago when it was single family, then it's sort of a single family construction in intent, right?
I guess to say that property owner, yes, chose to build a single family home,
Yeah,
but I guess there's nothing that says he has to be. If he wakes up tomorrow and decides, he or she decides, I'm out on this parcel, I want to build something else, they would have that right.
sure.
I don't know.
I need.
It almost seems like to me that you're, with the change that you're talking about, and I understand because it's all this the transit stuff, but you're almost encouraging all those single family homeowners to say, I'm done. I'll sell it to somebody else and they can build multifamily on these properties because you're taking away their buffers and all that. I mean, theoretically, that corner lot, the one above it could be sold and then they would be right back to this 5-foot buffer and they would just be boxed in with these little 5-foot buffers, even though it's a single family home. I mean, that's hypothetical because we don't know what 2025, that's your recommendation. I understand why you're trying to do it, but it seems like we're squeezing out the single family properties. We're narrowing their ability to protect their property with our buffers by saying we're going to change the zoning. We're going to call it the TOD, whatever, transit corridor. So that's my concern as we move ahead with this, that we're not pushing single family people out because of the way we've structured the zoning.
Yes, Solomon, and I think you said it just the same way I would say. I was going to say, so it sounds like you're eradicating single family housing right here in this area. You just said it's zone TLD. It's currently zone TLD, or it's going to be, or you're planning for it to be zone TLD?
It's on TOD and C right now.
Right.
So I guess so what happened is think about it in 2006, when we set up our transit stations, we had said it in those transit areas, those walk distance, we wanted higher density. So at some point, I guess what would start to happen is we would start to see that transition in the city, that these uses would all start converting to TOD, because even TOD in 2006 had a minimum density of something like 16 units an acre. So what would happen is, I guess in a perfect world, it would be a developer comes in and yes, starts saying, hey, I'm going to assemble all these parcels to get a larger nucleus. But again, here's the reality. Like you said, now the reality of the world is we have individual property owners who said, I built my single family home, I'm staying here. And so now what's starting to happen is we're seeing all this TOD development start to now develop around these single family homes.
But the policy is for it to be single family homes.
No.
Current
The
policy.
adopted policy currently is, but the revised policy back would basically have that going to match the current zoning on the ground.
But the proposed is what's coming in 2025.
Because I guess to say, again, think about overall in the city, let's think about this one.
You're right.
Overall saying, where we've got a policy map that's adopted, comp plan, and we have zoning that doesn't match all over the city. And right now, when those property owners are coming to us saying, so for example, I can give an example. Someone has an industrial property, well, the place site map is calling for a commercial center. So now basically we've told this property owner is his uses don't match up. So now what it is either A, we have to update the policy map to get it to either match industrial, or you take it to its current zoning back to that commercial NC. So that way they're matching up, because again, what's starting to happen is we're getting buffers triggered against, now single family homes are buffering against single family homes, because again, we're starting to figure out small parcels, and we want to make sure when our comp plan team is going out there, they're making sure these align, and this is one of these areas that we need to realign.
So-
Folks here.
They're at, you said there had to be, the maximum they could do is 5 units, or that's the minimum units?
That's the minimum that TOD zoning allows. It's a 5.
So if we don't approve this, then the builder, he can't, so he's planning to build 5 units on this little bitty parcel.
That would be the idea, yes, is that in order to be able to build his 5 units, he would need to get these variances to do that.
Because he couldn't build 4 units because he has to have a
That-
minimum 5.
It's quadruplexes, duplex, single family, single family, duplex, triplex, and quadruplex. I don't know, if single family permitted in TOD?
Hmm.
No, so single family, duplex, triplex, and quadruplexes are not permitted in TOD and C zone.
But he could build a duplex on this.
No,
No.
not as
Okay.
it's currently zoned.
I got you.
It has
Thank
to be, multifamily attached or stacked, and multifamily is defined as having at least 5 units.
Okay, I just come back to the single family, I understand everything you're saying, that we want more density, but it just seems like that we're beginning to penalize the single family homeowner in the name of more density. I mean, who knows how long they've had their property, but to start just boxing them in because you're changing, and I know you need to make it match.
But
It's almost,
effectively, they boxed this landowner out from building anything. Because, I mean, he really can't do anything.
right. True.
And is there any limitation on the height? Because there's not much land to build 5 units on. It has to be stacked.
Yeah, it's when you're within a neighborhood 1 place type, you have to be, I think it's maximum of 50 feet height for a distance of 100 feet. So basically it'd be a 50-foot height limitation.
Okay. And so this is the zoning map with
Yes.
TODNC. Where can we find a place type?
This is the current adopted place type map. Again, these are all parcels with that TOD NC zoning, and their land use or policy map recommendation is for a mixture of neighborhood center in the pink and neighborhood 1 in the yellow.
So looking at staff's recommendation, is the recommendation based on what's to come or what is?
It's based on what is.
And the fence they're gonna build, you said is 6 feet?
6-foot high fence, needing to meet minimum of 75% opaqueness with vines, and the finished side facing the abutting property.
So, but you're building a 50-foot building and you're putting in a 6-foot, so that building is going to overlook that neighbor's yard, correct? Pretty much?
It would, I guess, depend on where they had their windows facing and all that, and how the building was designed, but I mean, potentially it could be a 50-foot tall building next door to the single family home, yes.
So findings of fact number 12, unnecessary hardships will result from the strict application of the ordinance. Isn't the ordinance in place to protect those single family homeowners?
I mean, the ordinance is in place to provide guidance on zoning and building regulations, so it's not just to protect single-family homes. And then there are aspects of the zoning ordinance that are in place to protect single-family homes.
But what we're saying is the ordinance is in place where they have to have this X amount foot buffer because those are neighborhood 1 properties. If they were the same type of properties it's zoned for, they wouldn't need the same buffer, correct?
Yes.
Any other questions for staff? Okay, all right, we have someone to speak. Want to start with 4? Okay. If you're here to speak in favor of this, would you please step forward? Sir, would you please state your name and spell it for the court reporter?
Yes, it's James Malatesta, Malatesta.
All right, sir, if So, do you swear and affirm, that the, evidence you shall give to the board in this action shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you, sir. All right, you may continue.
Well, I mean, I'm not sure there's much more for me to reiterate. Other than, you know, my intent is to try to, you know, to get as much density on the, really to follow the zoning. And if I'm not able to, I'm not sure what else I'd need. I mean, I'd need to go through a rezoning process. As I understand it, you might not likely downgrade the rezoning. So it just seems like things are pushing me out way too far. I need to develop this now. So I'm not sure. I feel kind of stuck. And I'm willing to do whatever is necessary to accommodate, you know, the single family home owners and whatnot. Certainly the fence was an accommodation, but if there was something else that I needed to do, I'm willing to do that as well.
How many units are you planning? How many units are you planning?
Well, I'm supposed to build 5, but I'm struggling to figure out how to do that, even with the parcel as it is. So there's a potential that discussing a text amendment that might allow me to fit what I could in that space, given the parking requirements and everything else that would be involved.
Would it be more than 5 or less than 5?
It would be less than 5.
By chance, it's not a necessity. Have you ever tried to obtain that parcel beside you?
The parcel directly to the right is a large single-family home. I never suspected that would be something that would be in play. The other parcels I have not as of yet.
All right, anything else, sir? Thank you very much. All right, somebody that is in opposition? Okay, step up, please.
I wouldn't say I'm in opposition. I'm just
Okay.
want to
that's fine.
state some concerns.
Okay,
Okay,
if you
not
would,
opposition.
state your name and
Uh,
spell it for the court reporter, please.
Devin Mendelson.
Spell it.
Devin, Mendelsohn.
Okay, do you solemnly swear or affirm that the evidence you shall give to the board in this action shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, so. you
Okay,
may Continue.
I'm actually at 318 Greystone. So I'm the lot you guys are talking about that's right next to it.
Okay,
So the concerns that I have are, like I said, parking. If you got 5 units, at least 2 people maybe per unit, that's 10 cars. This street that goes right by Weston is maybe, what is it across? Maybe 18, 19 feet across. So if you had people parking on that street and then you had people parking on the opposite side, which happens sometimes, you can't get emergency vehicles up that street at all. So that stops that from happening. That's a concern I have. Where do you put the parking? The other one is water, like the water that runs off South Boulevard behind it. If it's all that way, there's no sewers on Weston from that point all the way down to the corner. The only sewer exists right here and over here. So there's no place for the water to run off from. And then I think I had one more. I think the accommodation was made for the setback on the 5 feet because there's electrical lines that run straight up across. And then the last one consideration that I had is, like you said, if it's going to go 50 feet up, it literally will then look down on my house. I don't have windows on that side of the house, but I mean, my backyard is there and there's there'd be no privacy then. So I think that's all I have. Any questions for me?
I'm sorry, you currently reside in that property right now?
This is correct.
Mm-hmm. You live right there.
Yep, I've been there for 20 years too. So
And that's the big lot, the pink lot on South Boulevard. It's a new Aldi grocery store, and then
this one is on the pink side, and This hasn't been built yet.
Okay, but it was demoed, right? Is there,
Yeah,
any-
demos.
do we know what that's gonna be
Yeah,
yet? Is that
Yep.
multifamily, I guess?
It's completely flat now,
800
yeah.
units or something like that? I'm joking.
Obviously, I'm not a water expert, but I mean, he brings up a valid point. Is sewage or anything or water of a concern, water usage in this area? I mean, I know we've heard other variance requests where you need approval, you need to be surveyed from the city of Charlotte's water department, et cetera. Is that an issue over here?
So the stormwater runoff would be usually designed during construction permitting. And they have specific regulations that they will have to meet when they go through that plan review to make sure that their site is handling the stormwater runoff. So that could be tying into existing stormwater systems or providing on-site stormwater retention to manage whatever runoff flow that they might be generating on their development.
But that's an issue beyond us at this
It
point.
happens during permitting, yeah,
Okay.
during construction permitting.
All right, thank you.
Requirements. What are the on-site parking requirements in this area?
So the TOD NC zoning requires one dwelling space per dwelling unit as a minimum. And then I don't know if there's a maximum for residential in TOD.
Okay.
I'd like to talk to the owner again, if we could.
Just a quick reminder to the board members, please turn on your microphones when you're about to speak so that it can be heard for the folks that are online.
So I'm trying to get a little more detail about what you're gonna build.
Okay.
As somebody that knows a little bit about this, you wouldn't be standing here unless you had a plan. And clearly, we've seen a footprint that the city put up.
Yep.
So you have presented them with something. I'm trying to understand more specifically, a couple things. What is the parking that you have built into the plan that clearly has to be modified, but assuming that's gonna happen, what is the parking you have built into it right now?
Well, as I mentioned, we're trying to get a text amendment to go lower on the requirements, to go under 5 units on the requirements. So as we planned it out, we had 3 units. And I guess looking at the top, you can see where there's 3 units or 3 units.
I see.
Garage for each unit. And that's currently, that was where we were leaning towards in terms of the maximum density we could get on it, on the property. Now, something that might alleviate some of your concerns is we were looking to make it more of a townhouse feel versus a very large structure in doing that. And have it blend into what's going on the single family, from single family perspective. So I'm not sure it would be, I'm not sure exactly what our plan's height is, but I know it's a roof deck.
To get parking, though, you're gonna have to go up.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to.
Well, we'll be three stories
Three
on
stories,
each
yeah,
with a roof deck.
which will get you 40 feet.
So are these like 2-bedroom, 1-bedroom units that you're planning? What?
4-bedroom, 3,600 square feet.
Guess I wanna caution the board, staff has not seen any plans, so right now, since this is by right, I just wanna be, so.
Yeah,
Right,
that was my
I was
next,
just
that's my
curious.
next
So I
question.
wanna be clear.
We do not have the ability to,
No.
we could say, put up the fence. We can say that, but we can't say, well, first of all, a text amendment has to happen as well. So we don't know if that's gonna happen. Correct?
So I guess the answer is staff is looking at a text amendment because we do realize that some of these small parcels are coming up. So we're talking, we're investigating the possibility of.
So you're open to that. You're open to that discussion.
That is correct, yes, sir.
Otherwise, he has to rezone.
If this were to, yes, if he says he wants to do a triplex, he would need to rezone to a district.
Okay. So my question for you then is, what limitations can we do here? Besides, we put up a fence, we can't say anything about height. We can't say anything about, we'll approve 3 units, not 5 units, correct? None of that. It's a by right, like, like Solomon said, it's by right, which means he gets a green light, he can do whatever he wishes. But that would be requiring 5, and it would be up to staff to approve 3 with a text amendment. Am I understanding that all correctly?
So I guess in general, it would be right now would be if the text amendment's approved, then he'd be allowed to do 3. And then that would, then ultimately but I guess to say, he could still choose to do more depending upon how he makes it fit on the side, how the director builder or designer makes it fit on the side.
So he could leave with a by right, he could tell us he's doing 3 units, but he could leave here and put a 50-foot building up and put 5 units in and go on his happy way.
That would be correct.
You have to get 5 parking spots on site.
On site, I mean, through the various means in the ordinance, it's on site or on street, depending upon.
Is there room for 5 parking spaces in front of this little small parcel?
It's only 72 feet wide, so you probably only would get maybe 2-3 spaces probably.
And right now, and that's also depending on, and right now, without CDOT and fire looking at this, I don't want to speak for them.
So all we're looking at right now is his request to change the setbacks.
And the landscape yard and
And that would be the first step that he takes, and then the second step would be what Solomon just talked about, but he's still got to clear CDOT and water and sewer and all of that, correct?
correct.
Okay. And that would all be done in permitting.
The 5-foot setback, if I can speak, the 5-foot setback was an accommodation because there would be no setback otherwise. It would just TOD.
Solomon, could he have done the text amendment prior to this variance, or what does that process look like? How likely is he gonna be approved for a 3-unit?
So I guess with text amendments, what starts to happen is it takes, the gentleman's correct, it takes a little longer for us to do text amendments because now what happens is we are doing a text amendment that affects the entire city. So now there has to be it's not an individual. So what happens is this gentleman may apply for a text amendment, somebody in the university here can come and say, I'm opposed, and we're looking at, because again, as I try to tell customers and citizens when they come in, that text amendments, when we do them, it affects the entire city. So if I allow it, so for example, if we allow for a duplex to go into a TOD, that means we would have to allow duplexes in every TOD site across the city. And again, when those original TOD standards were created, the intent wasn't that we were getting this low density in these high areas. The really intent was we wanted.
Could he request a variance for a triplex instead of a
So
5-unit minimum?
So staff thought about that, but it was really getting close to, that's a use variance and that's not allowed. So we erred on the side of caution.
It seems, even after the amendment, and it still has to go through permitting, after all the hurdles are cleared, is this ever gonna have to come back in front of us? Or we just give our approval today and then whatever transpires after, if he gets the amendment, et cetera, wherever transpires, it goes.
So I guess speaking how it kind of works with the board is, even taking this out, once you guys give your approval, if you say variance X is approved, unless that developer has to come back for another variance, that variance is gonna sit out there for the length of it's allowed for the UDO, and then you guys will never see it again.
And to your point, this isn't just about this project. This is really setting precedent for anything else that comes into zoning like this around the city against neighborhood.
The text amendment is what does that, right? The text amendment would be citywide.
All right.
But just to be clear though, the text amendment, if it's a blanket amendment, developers aren't gonna build 3 if they can build 5.
Right.
It's just not gonna happen.
It's just you're stuck with the postage stamps.
The
size
downside
font.
risk, I think Solomon's point is spot on. The issue is you have small issues like this coming up. And this particular owner is suffering because of that. So I don't think the risk for a text amendment is very big for the city. So I understand. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, any other questions? Okay, all right. The board will now go into deliberations.
Excuse me.
Oh, sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know there was another person. I apologize. Please step up and state your name and spell it for the court reporter.
Sure. Sarah Michelson, SarahMichelson.
And are you for or opposed?
I would say I'm opposed.
Okay. All right, Sarah, thank you. Let's see, do you solemnly swear or affirm that the evidence you shall give to the board in this action shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay. All right, Sarah, you may continue.
Good morning. The presentation that was given today, though thorough, does miss a key point, and that's trees, Charlotte, and the sustainability efforts. And when we start doing large setback limits, we go directly against that initiative to grow and improve the canopy. It wasn't entered into any of our presentations. And so I urge the board to consider that initiative as well. As someone who has lived in Shanghai, China, where it is incredibly polluted, and the first thing you do every day is you look up to see if you can go outside. These trees are important. And this is our opportunity to set a precedent that says, if a builder is going to purchase a lot that can't fit what they're going to build, then they ought to do that research prior to purchasing and understanding that they have to build something that fits in there. As someone who is seeing development going through that is going right to the setback, it is pushing limits. And by decreasing it even more can only negatively impact the city of Charlotte. We have a beautiful environment, and by ignoring Trees Charlotte and their effort, and it says in their website that this is a citywide collaboration with everyone, it really feels that this is a negative impact on our city, and to sit there and continue to set this precedent for this lot is a dangerous one.
Can we go back to the original, I'm sorry, can we go back to the original picture, like the actual picture of the property?
So it was clear cut when it was done. This seems to be the habit of many of the builders, is to absolutely
One
clear
more.
cut a lot.
The one, the actual picture from the lot with the sign in it.
That's existing.
Madam Chair, I would just remind speakers that it's one at a time, and if an individual wishes to speak, they have to be recognized by the board.
Thank you.
If you go out on Zillow and you look at the picture of the lot when it was on the market, there was a tree in front of the property, in front of the house that was there. So this is obviously after demolition. So really, when we ignore that portion, we also don't require that trees are replaced to maintain and improve the canopy. So nowhere is that in any of the discussion. And I feel very strongly that this is a hardship to all of us when we don't consider the sustainability.
Are those trees that's currently there to be cut with this development? They're not on the property, are they?
We all have a tree survey, so exactly where those trees are in relation to the property line.
But the point would be that if they're going all the way to that, taking away the rear setback, you can see those are the power lines. Those trees would come down if they were on the property. I'm also concerned that if we're dealing with parking, the amount of concrete that is going to be used, and it will completely eliminate any opportunity for this property to ever contribute to the canopy. It's something, once it's built, it's there for good. If we can maintain the setbacks at least, and I'm not asking the builder to put in trees, but it at least provides the opportunity for a future owner to plant trees. So I urge the board to consider the long-term impact of decisions like this.
Where do you draw the line? Skyscrapers downstairs, downtown don't have trees.
Absolutely, they don't. I understand that. But I think about the setbacks, and when we continue to eliminate setbacks that provide room for trees to contribute to the canopy, staying within the boundaries of our setbacks that are already there is a reasonable request. I am in support of the UDO. I've seen great ones go up. I have no issues with the UDO. I take issue when we have properties that are going to eliminate the opportunity for this to have a sustainable impact on our communities.
Any other questions for Sarah? Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Are there any other speakers for or against? All right.
Question for Solomon.
All right. Yes, sir. Here.
Solomon, I've got, can you just refresh me on tree save requirements, please?
So I believe it's a 15% tree save requirement.
It is.
So on this side, what would happen is as I'd say, my brothers from Urban Forestry would review it, and as part of it, they would be required to, if there's any existing trees out there, you have to maintain it, or if you, for some reason, if the designer and the developer cut that tree down, they would have to go through a mitigation process, if even allowed on the site. If not, they would have to figure out their design, they have to work around some of those trees. And then it's also possible that street trees would be triggered based on, depending upon the. And then also following up with you, Mr. Williams, but I know it was a kind of just a tongue in cheek, that parcel that was talking about was built on it. It's 415 multifamily units with 5,000 square feet of commercial on the ground floor, and it looks like it's roughly 130 feet tall building. 130.
What was on this property originally? Was it a single family home?
It was a duplex, like.
A duplex like the other ones? Okay. And when was that duplex? I mean, evidently,
I don't know when it was
demolished.
demolished, prior to the current property owner.
okay, thank you.
Yeah, the picture on Polaris of the duplex that was there, it was in 2017, so it was sometime after February of 17.
But I'm correct in saying, according to the new zoning, he can't put a duplex back there. Correct. Okay, I got it. Thank you. All right. Any more questions or comments for the staff or for the people who spoke today? All right, step up, sir.
I mean, I just want to understand why, or maybe someone can explain why that lot can't be, why it has to have 5 units on it. Isn't there some kind of a, like just logical sense to say that you can't put 5 units on that? I mean, I guess I understand density, but if the lot size is so small, there should be some kind of a trigger that says if this lot can only fit this on here. We understand that we want to do we want density in that area, but some of that has to make sense,
So I guess I gotta answer, there's 2 things here. When staff is speaking, there's a requirement. So COD and C requires a minimum requirement of 5 units. It doesn't mean your lot size can handle 5 units. It's just, so when the developer is saying, hey, you have a requirement in the ordinance that says there's 5 units, my staff would be looking at it saying, hey, you have to show us on the plans a minimum of 5 units. Now, the reality of the world is as typically I make with people saying, you may have a postage stamp, it just doesn't work for 5 units. And so now if it doesn't work, so obviously he's decided to go the variance route, or he can go the rezone. If, for example, if the variance gets denied, then you either have to go through a rezoning to a district that allows a triplex, or he has to go through a text amendment, just depending upon.
So then that lot would then just could remain empty if you can't get through all that stuff? All of those different rezoning and things? I mean,
if you couldn't show the requirements with the current zoning, I guess in theory it would be, he wouldn't be able to develop that, and then that's a different issue that would run into.
is that in your plans to kind of work through those scenarios? Because this isn't going to be the first one in that area that's going to be like that, right? There's going to be more that are going to be that size lot, and then you're not going to be able to fit 5 units on it.
And so I think that's why staff is looking at a text amendment, because again, that is correct. It's going to say that's why we are looking at these, because again, his lot's not the only lot even.
Yeah, there's 2 more right up there. Yeah.
And then just all around the city and these TOD areas where you're going to start seeing that now. We have these remnant parcels starting to show up, and how do we address that?
Okay.
And that's what staff has to look at. Again, we have to do some more investigation, because originally when the text was written, it was for that we were getting this massive list of properties together and not individual one-offs.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, any other questions, comments? Step up.
This is Solomon. You mentioned the text amendment would take some time. Is that right? Do you have an estimated amount of time that?
I don't have an estimated time. I know, I guess I tell everybody this, being honest with you, staff, I sit down weekly with everybody, with the UDO team, and I'm looking at text amendments. But again, there is a certain amount of time, because again, we have to go through research. I do know this issue has been brought up on the list, and staff is looking at it. And again, it just takes that time, because even if I filed one tomorrow, it would still take us that 3 to 4 month process to go through before we have a public hearing with council. So right now, even with the earliest as possible, it might be December, January. So again, that's kind of how we do those estimates.
All right. Any more questions for the parties or the witnesses? All right, this concludes the presentation of evidence. The board will now begin deliberation. The board may reopen the hearing to ask clarifying questions if needed. Interesting parties are not permitted to address the board during this portion of the meeting. However, everyone is permitted to remain present and listen quietly to the board's discussion and the vote. I apologize, I didn't have my mic on. Okay, so we are now in deliberations. Marshall, would you like to start? Or would you like to end, whichever you prefer?
I guess I'm perplexed because part of me says this owner needs the ability to develop the lot. The other part of me says I should vote to deny the variance because it would push the agenda of the text amendment to maybe occur more quickly than otherwise would happen. So I don't know. That is all.
Mr. Shea?
That's not all. I'm in favor of the variance for a couple of reasons. I think Mr. Mendelson's protection is important. I think it's been a key issue here. But I don't think the threat of 5 units and 50-foot buildings can happen here. I'm going to say I'm 95% sure that can't happen here. And he will need a text amendment or rezoning to get to build what he wants. So if we give him the variance, he will have a by right, like Solomon has said. He'll try to squeeze as many on there as he can, but he's going to get crunched at he's going to get crunched with parking. He's going to get crunched with water control. He's going to get crunched with tree save. To meet all those things, he is not going to get 5 units. So that's why I'm in favor of giving him a shot to develop it the way he can and asking for staff's help with the tax amendment.
Okay, Ms. Lee? Comments?
Oh, I'm sorry, one more thing.
Oh, yes, go ahead.
And I would require the fence that we talked about, even if it's on the neighbors, the chain link fence is on the neighbor's yard, it still require a new fence. I think it's a better look.
Okay. So I am inclined to deny the variance because theoretically there's still a possibility he can put 5 units, because if he builds 4 stories, that's 50 feet, and then 3 parking unit inside the lot and 2 parking unit on the street, he can still fit 5 in total to meet the requirement. And also for Mr. Mendelson's protection, I would vote to deny the variance.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Gary, you're up.
As my fellow board member echoed, the sentiments he echoed I am torn for those same reasons. Yeah, this is a tough one. This is a tough one, just because it does set precedent. But again, to Mr. Shea's point, it doesn't hurt to give the property owner an opportunity to develop it into something. I mean, it's better than what's there currently. And again, with all of the other hurdles he will need to alleviate, that's a battle in itself. So I would be in favor of approval.
Okay. The board has shared many of my concerns, and I agree with Mr. Shea. There's a lot more hoops that he's going to have to go through. But this board, we have to look at just what we are accountable for, which is the variance that he's requesting. And he does by right have this property that he can use. I would request that we make sure that a new fence is built and that it is on his property or on the property line, not on the neighbor's property. If we can be assured of that, because I don't think that Mr. Mendelson should have to have a new fence on his property when we're already narrowing the buffers. I think this is a very gnarly issue that we'll probably have more of these because these are very, very small lots and we're trying to put way too much housing on this small lot. But I also agree with Ms. Sun. I mean, he can get the 5 parking spaces, but you're building a 4-bedroom apartment or condo. And this, it has nothing to do with what we can vote on, but realistically speaking, you're not gonna build a 4-bedroom condo and have 1 parking space and 1 car. I mean, I'm sorry, that is not a realistic expectation, that you have a 4-bedroom place and there's only 1 car. So, so we run into the parking issue again, but that's something that he will have to deal with. But as far as meeting the 4 requirements that we're required to, it is an unnecessary hardship. It would result if we did the strict application because he wouldn't be able to build anything there. It's peculiar to the property. I would hope that planning and you can start to maybe help people understand, maybe a duplex would have been a better use for this property to go through rezoning and asked us to put a triplex there or a duplex as opposed to what we're trying to do here. But as far as what we can do, then I'm going to be in favor of allowing this to go through with those recommendations about the fence, if that's within our purview.
Madam Chair, yes, that the fencing requirement or the fencing condition can be something that the board can enact. I just want to give the board a couple of key points. The first one is that you have to look at the variance standards before, as you're making your decision. Is this an unnecessary hardship that would result from the strict application of the ordinance as it pertains to the property owner in this particular property? Does that hardship results from conditions that are peculiar to the property? Does the hardship result from actions that were taken by the applicant? And then is the requested variance consistent with the spirit, intent, and purpose of the ordinance as it goes on? And just as a reminder, both the UDO as well as 160D require you to grant a variance if the applicant has met all of those standards. And so your deliberations have to be in light of the standards and whether or not they are met. The second point that I'd like to remind the board of is more often than not, you are not setting precedent because each and every case that you're looking at is different. The circumstances of each property owner and each property are different. Very few times will you find 2 property owners that are exactly the same, exactly in the exact same position. So what you do today is applicable one way or another to this property. Variances run with the land, with the particular land. It doesn't necessarily bind you to do the same thing for another property owner in a different circumstance.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hewitt. All right, any more comments before we vote? Go ahead.
I make a motion to approve with the requirement that a fence be built on his property.
Okay, so Mr. Shea has proposed that we approve this variance with the, yes, sir.
Can I get a clarification on the fence construction? Did it say on the property? Can you get more specific?
On the,
Property lines we're talking about?
well, right now you said there was a question about whether the fence was on the neighboring property or on the applicant's property. I'm saying that the fence needs to be either on the applicant's property or on the property line, not on the adjoining neighbor's property.
Did you want to say, so that's along the eastern property line? What about the rear property line?
I think it should be the same.
John, didn't the applicant agree to a condition of replacing that existing chain fence with the 6 foot high screen fence
Yeah,
with vines?
that's what we're discussing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right now is that the condition, because the chain link fence that's existing is appears to be on the neighbor's property. So I think what Mr. Shea is suggesting is that part of the motion is to have them construct a new screen fence on their property.
Right, on the applicant's property, right, right. That's what I wanted. Are we agree? You understand, Mr. Young?
Yeah, no, I totally get it. I just thought that was something they already agreed to according to these.
They
Yeah.
agreed to replacing the fence, and when I spoke to Mr. Melissa earlier, you either work with a neighbor or build a fence, whatever he.
We just want to make sure that it doesn't end up being on the neighbor's property when they rebuild the fence.
No, no,
Because the
understood.
fence right now may be on the neighbor's property, but we want to make sure that it does not continue to be there.
So if I may construct a new 6 foot high screen fence, a minimum 75% opaque with vines with the fence side facing abutting north and east properties.
Right,
Correct.
right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kinley, for that clarification. Okay, so Mr. Shea now has made that recommendation. Excuse me, he's voted to approve. That's the word I'm looking for. Thank you. Made the motion to approve this variance with the condition of the fence. All right, do we hear a second?
I second.
Okay, now we'll go for a roll call vote. Mr. Williamson,
Williamson, yes.
Mr. Shea,
Shay, yes.
Ms. Sun,
So no.
Sun, no, Mr. Young,
Young, yes.
Dryden, yes. So the variance passes. Thank you very much. We will take a brief 10-minute recess before we, oh, I'm sorry, the finding of facts. I apologize. Ahead of myself. Okay, do I hear a motion to approve the finding of facts and the conditions of law with the condition that Mr. McKinley put in about the tree, about the fence?
Number 17
Okay,
need to be rewritten. John, can you write down your,
yes, for
Read your
number
notes.
17, you replace number 17 with what you wrote in your notes about the tree, about the fence.
Abstain would be, again, condition to construct a 6 foot high fence with vines.
on the north,
Say on their property.
on the north and east sides?
On the north and east side.
And north and east side.
On their property. On the property. Okay, so we have made that, so do I hear a motion to approve?
Madam Chair, just another brief amendment
Okay,
where it says conclusions of law on page 4, deleting the parentheses for side and rear setbacks, as these conclusions of law are applicable to all of the findings of fact.
tell me again, under conclusions of law. number-
Just deleting the parentheses right next to conclusions of law that says for side and rear
Oh,
setbacks.
okay. So
Because
we don't need to have that in there. It's just the conclusions of law, this little phrase there.
they apply to all the variances.
Okay, yeah, that, correct. Okay. All right, let's try this again. Now, do I have someone that votes to approve the finding of facts and conditions and conclusions of law?
Make a motion to approve.
Mr. Shea and Mr. Young was a second. Mr. Williamson,
Williamson, yes.
Mr. Shea,
Shay, yes.
Ms. Sun,
So no.
Young, yes.
yes, and Dryden, yes. So the finding of facts is approved. Okay, now we'll take a brief 10-minute recess before we continue with variance 2024-0027, which is on the recommendation agenda. Oh. That was a long time. To do. to resume today. All right, we are now going to hear case number 2024-00027. This is on the recommendation item. It's the property located at 3310 Anson Street. Mr. McKinley, if you are ready,
All right.
or Kinley, excuse me.
2024-00027 for Morgan McGram at property at 3310 Anson Street. It's a variance request for Article 4.3, Table 4-2 of the UDO, which is has a rear setback of 35 feet and requesting it to go down to 20 feet, which is a 15-foot reduction. Here's the property. Again, down off of South Boulevard and Hartford Avenue is the, I guess, the major next closest intersection. We're a little bit south of Marsh Road, not too far away from our last case, which was over here. This is a bit more into the neighborhood. It's an existing single-family home that you can see here, and it's zoned neighborhood 1B zoning district along with everything in the neighborhood. And here's an aerial of the parcel, again showing the existing single-family house and the neighbors around. Close-up aerial. On the close-up aerial, I'll just note that the proximity of these houses to the property lines here, here, and then this is the existing single-family homes footprint. The corner is right about there underneath that tree. And here's a bird's eye image of the parcel. Again, you can kind of see the shape and location of the property in relation to its neighbors. And there's the existing single-family home with a house next door. This looks like it's been recently built or renovated. And then you have neighbors here and here. You can see the house on the other street in the back. The variance request is again from our Article 4.3, Table 4-2, which for that zoning district N1B requires a 35-foot rear yard, requesting to take that down to 20 feet, which is a 15-foot reduction. And you can see that the existing home's footprint already encroaches quite a ways into the required 35-foot rear yard. So that 35-foot rear yard is measured parallel to this back property line. So results in a building envelope that's in this blue. And you can see the existing single-family home outline here in the striped encroaches into that setback area, as well as the existing covered porch. So the request is to take that rear setback line, move it back 20 to the 20-foot mark so that the existing single-family home and a proposed second-story addition would be within the setbacks. And then this 4-foot wide addition would also meet the side setback and the new rear setback as well. And again, on the plans, this is just showing the area in gray is where they're proposing an addition to the home. And then there'd be a second-story addition that would align with the footprint of the existing home. And then the boundary of the existing home at the back, it would not change. So it would stay the same footprint essentially at the back corner. And there's a little close-up of the aerial again. And the intent of this slide is just to illustrate that the back property line and the side are at an angle. And it's an angle of 128 degrees here at this property corner. And the neighbor to the rear here also has a similar irregular shaped lot, but its angle is 138. And the reason that matters is that the ordinance says that if you have a angle of 135 degrees, then or greater, then you can measure your setback as a radius from that farthest corner. So this lot, because their angle here is 138, they're able to measure their 35-foot yard requirement, rear yard, from this corner, 35. However, this property, because that angle is under 135, they have to measure as a setback that's parallel to the rear property line rather than as a radius from this corner. And you can see in the neighborhood, there's a number of similar properties that have irregular shaped lots. You've got number 1 here, which again, fairly angular parcels here. Another example of some angular parcels down here. Over on Dexter Street, there's this one that's got a very weird rear lot line. And then another off of Auburn Avenue in Greystone that again has similar conditions, with one property having a slightly greater angle than the other. These are standards for granting a variance. All 4 need to be shown to be met to grant a variance. Unnecessary hardship results from the strict application of the ordinance. Because there's a lack of depth in the property, and the shape of the lot and placement of the existing home on the lot are such that the existing non-conforming home already encroaches into the rear yard, and a radius cannot be used to measure the rear setback. And we believe that the hardship results from conditions that are peculiar to the property, because the depth of the lot and angle of the rear lot line and the placement of the existing home restrict the building envelope. Hardship does not result in actions that are taken by the applicant. The hardship results from the lot configuration, again, the angle of the rear lot line and the existing non-conforming home's placement on the lot. And the requested variance is consistent with the spirit and purpose and intent of the ordinance, in that public safety is secured and substantial justice is achieved. Second-story addition and the 4-foot wide addition to the right rear side would not extend closer to the rear property line than that of the existing home's footprint, and would not exceed the established rear setback, and therefore be within what the variance request is of 20 feet. And there are other parcels in the neighborhood, similar conditions, and granting the variance will not adversely affect the adjacent contiguous properties. And granting the variance will not alter the essential character of the neighborhood, since the home will be remaining in the existing footprint from 1951. Here's a picture of the sign on the property, and again, you can kind of see the house. So if you would imagine, there'd be some additions within the setbacks to this side here, the front, and on this side here, and then there'd be a second-story addition that aligns with the footprint of the back of the house. And that concludes my presentation. I'll take any questions if you have them.
Any questions for Mr. Kinley? Do I hear a motion to approve this variance?
Some second.
Mr. Shea and Ms. Sun. Okay, roll call vote. Mr. Williamson,
Williamson, yes.
Mr. Shea,
Shay, yes.
Ms. Sun,
Sun, yes.
Mr. Young,
Young, yes.
Dryden, yes. The variance is approved. And now I need a motion to approve the finding of facts and conclusions of law.
I make a motion to approve the finding of facts.
Mr. Young, Mr. Shea is the second. Mr. Williamson,
Williamson, yes.
Mr. Shea,
Shay, yes.
Sun,
Sun, yes.
Mr. Young,
Young, yes.
and Dryden, yes. So the variance is approved and the finding of facts and conclusions of law are approved. Thank you very much. All right, we're moving on now to variance number 2024-00028, also under the recommendation items, located at 2538 Sam Wilson Road. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Kinley, you may.
All right. This is a variance case 2024-00028 by Yara Hosseini for property located at 2538 Sam Wilson Road. It's a parcel owned by Jerry Hunter and Willie Hunter. And the variance request is to eliminate the Class B 25-foot landscape yard along the right side or northern property line, with the condition that a 6-foot high opaque fence is provided along the northern and western property lines. So this is a vicinity map of the area. Again, we're off of Sam Wilson Road at 85. You keep going on 85, you cross over the Catawba River. 45 is here. And so if you're familiar with the interchange, there's a fairly new, I would say, within the last probably 5-6 years, Love's Travel Stop here. And then there's a gas station here. And then I think these are some warehousing and industrial type buildings back here in the back. And then you have some single family homes off of Margot Drive. And then you go out this way and you'd end up at the Whitewater Center. So that's kind of the area of this county we're talking about. This case is for a portion of the parcel that's highlighted in green. This is the portion we're talking about. It's currently zoned CG, General Commercial Zoning District, along with the parcels to the south. And then across the street, there's neighborhood N2B zoning district. And then I think the Loves is an old industrial conditional zoning. And then you have some industrial zoning as you go down Performance Drive, B2CD next door, which we'll talk more about here in a minute. And then the single family neighborhood to the north has a zoning of N2B as well. Here's an aerial map of the property. It's currently vacant. And to the north is a single family home. The parcel is split into two, but it's all under one zoning, that B2CD zoning that I mentioned. There's a close up of the property showing the vacant nature of it. And then the property has power lines along the frontage, both Sam Wilson and Performance Drive. And here's a street view of the site. Again, we're talking kind of generally about this area here. And this back here would be the rest of the parcel that's not subject to the variance request. Variances to request is to eliminate the Class B 25-foot landscape yard along the right or northern side of the property with condition that a 6-foot high opaque fence is provided along the northern and western property lines. So the parcel here is zoned CG, but it abuts neighborhood 1 place type, which is this yellow. So it triggers a 25-foot landscape yard along this property line here and along this property line here, because this is also recommended as in neighborhood 1 place type. So the request would be to get a waiver for that landscape yard. And the reason being is that this parcel it was rezoned to B2CD in 2019. And this is the site plan for that conditional zoning. And you can see that it rezoned this entirety of the 2 parcels here with the single family houses basically here. It rezoned it to allow for commercial uses. And that zoning, conditional zoning, accounts for a landscape yard or Class B buffer, actually is what it was called under the old ordinance, but along its northern property line. So the Waffle House site is here, and this is the neighboring property that has that conditional zoning. And that conditional zoning did not update the policy map because it happened before the policy map went into effect. So the conditional rezoning to the north happened in 2019. Policy map was drafted in 2021 and got adopted. I don't know the exact date off the top of my head. I think it's in findings somewhere, June. Let's see, March of 2022 was when the final version of the policy map was adopted. So typically rezonings update the policy map, but because the policy map wasn't in place yet, this rezoning didn't update the policy map to show this being commercial land use. This is a map that shows the impact of the buffer that would be required. And again, there's you have a more narrow frontage along Sam Wilson, and then Performance Drive, you got more space to work with. The location of the driveway has to be as far away as possible from the intersection of Sam Wilson and Performance. And so that's why the driveway is down here as opposed to being on Sam Wilson or closer to the intersection. And so that kind of dictates that the parking in the building are in this general layout with their stormwater management area in this back corner where the site drops off towards that's the low end of the site over here. So with the landscape yard, they really don't have space to accommodate the site layout. And so that's why they're asking for that to be waived. And then they would construct a fence, an opaque fence along this property line and this property line. And here's the proposed layout with the variance granted. And then we've just highlighted the area where the 6-foot fence would be provided.
So John, go ahead, Chair.
Well, the property line where the green is that underneath is that a tree right in the middle of that fencing?
There's a
there?
tree here. It's off the property. It's on the neighboring
So the
property.
fence will butt up to the tree pretty much.
It looks like it's probably, it's hard to say without a scale, but judging by the width of a parking space, it looks like it's about the width of a parking space
Okay.
between the fence and the tree.
I was gonna ask for clarity's sake, John. So you say the property right next to it, even though it's zoned neighborhood, it is actually commercial use.
No, it is zoned, it's single family use currently. So the use is single family, but that property owner, the person who lives here, they rezoned it in 2019 to commercial for commercial uses. It just
Okay.
hasn't been developed with those commercial uses yet.
They don't own, and I see it's split where you're gonna put the fence. They don't own that parcel. I
They
guess
own-
behind, no, not that one, the one behind the site. 420.
Here.
Yeah, they don't own that.
So this is this is all one parcel here, but the portion that the Waffle House is proposing to buy and develop is just that front portion that's outlined.
So the behind it would still be single family?
It would still have a neighborhood one place type,
Right.
but it's still CG zoning.
So they're just buying that portion, so the owner could still build a home on that property, on the backside of it, if they wanted to.
Solomon, I don't think CG zoning doesn't allow residential use.
So they won't allow them to build a home. Okay.
This would only be able to be developed with non-residential uses,
Okay.
What's CG stand for?
general commercial.
GC.
So Solomon, what can they build in that second portion that's not, that's placed neighborhood?
Anything that's allowed in CG. So CG is general commercial. So think of like, basically in general, it's like office retail. I'm sorry, not residential, office retail.
So how does place type affect the zoning?
So think of it as place type is this 50,000. It's a recommended for land use, which helps council guide decisions, but your zoning is officially what you, the property, have the right to do on your property.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions before Mr. Kinley continues? Okay, go.
So the next slide is just the standards for granting the variance. All four need to be met to be able to grant the variance. Unnecessary hardship results from the strict application of the ordinance. So due to the size of the lot and because the policy map doesn't reflect the rezoning petition to the north, the B2 CD zoning of the abutting property is similar to the CG zoning. So it basically allows similar types of uses. And properties with the conventional zoning district of B2 in effect before the June 1st adoption date of the UDO were translated to CG per table 3-1. Hardship results from conditions that are peculiar to the property. The parcel is located on the corner of Sam Wilson and Performance Drive and is which are classified as 2+ and 4+ avenues, which are an arterial street type and requires additional distance from the center line to the back of curb and driveway placement considerations from the intersection. The driveway access to the parcel is required to be located on the western rear of the site due to the proximity of the intersection of Performance Drive and Sam Wilson. The parcel is approximately 93 feet wide at the front along Sam Wilson Road. And with the required 25-foot landscape yard, the available width would be reduced to just 67 feet. The site size of the hardship, sorry, I can't read that because the little thing at the top. So I'll read it off for you. The hardship does not result from actions taken by the applicant or the property owner. The site's size in conjunction with the landscape yard restricts the site's building envelope. And the requested variance is consistent with the spirit and purpose and intent of the Unified Development Ordinance in that public safety is secured and substantial justice is achieved. The abutting parcels to the north were recently rezoned to allow commercial uses. If the rezoning petition for the parcels to the north were done today, that rezoning would automatically update the policy map and the landscape yard would not be triggered. There are other commercial uses in the in and around the intersection of Sam Wilson Road and Performance Drive, including a gas station and a truck stop. And rezoning petition 2019-037 was for B2 CD conditional zoning. And that rezoning site plan includes a condition that a 28.5-foot wide buffer would be with a fence would be provided along its northern property line abutting single family uses in that neighborhood. And the applicant is providing a condition with a variance that 6-foot high fence would be provided along the western and northern property lines to screen the proposed use from the existing single family home.
And what kind of fence is he proposing?
A 6-foot high opaque
Okay,
fence.
okay. Thank you.
And this is a picture of the sign, notification sign on the property. And that concludes my presentation, and I'll take any questions.
Based on your photo, this is just a multi-purpose business unit going there. Just a
Sorry?
business, just a business space, multiple businesses.
The proposed use in this case is a Waffle House.
Oh, it's going to be a Waffle House.
Okay, any other questions for Mr. Kinley? Do I hear a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Mr. Williamson is motion to approve. Mr. Shea is a second. Mr. Young,
Young, yes.
Ms. Sun,
Sun, yes.
Mr. Shea,
Say yes.
Mr. Williamson,
Williamson, yes.
Dryden, yes. The variance is approved. And do I hear a motion to approve the finding of facts and conclusions of law?
Just one change.
On change?
Number 4. The second to last line, parcel located at 2528 Sam Wilson Road is, I think, in should be nuked. Just a grammatical error.
Under finding of facts, you're looking at?
Finding of facts, yes. Number 4, the parcel
Finding
located.
versus-
Sorry, Mr. Shea, you said it should be what?
Number 4, the last sentence reads, the parcel located at 2528 Sam Wilson Road is in single family use. It should just say is single family use, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right,
Small grammar.
okay. All right. That's right. Well, I guess they put it in there because it's in single family use now, but the people have already requested the
Still
property.
grammatically sucks.
It does. You're absolutely correct. It is grammatically incorrect. The intent was, I get the intent, but grammatically it's incorrect. You're right. All right. Do I hear a motion now to approve as amended the finding of facts and conclusions of law?
I'll make a motion to approve the findings of fact.
Thank you, Mr. Young. Do I hear a second?
Sun, second.
Ms. Sun, second. All right, Mr. Williamson,
Williamson, yes.
Mr. Shea,
Say yes.
Ms. Sun,
Sun, yes.
Mr. Young,
Young, yes.
Dryden, yes. So the finding of facts and conclusions of law are approved as amended. Thank you very much. All right, we now move into the appeals.
No, there's another.
No appeals.
We got one more.
One more variant.
Olympia,
Oh,
right?
one more. Okay.
29.
Okay, this is for variance 2024-00029 for parcel located at Pine Stream Drive. All right,
Can I be sworn in?
excuse me. Oh, okay. Thank you, Crystal. Okay. Yes. All right, Crystal, do you swear and affirm that let me find the words here. That the evidence you shall give to the board and the action shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you very much. All right, you may continue.
This is case number 2024-0029, and it's to reduce setbacks. The applicant is Olympia and Wright LLC, represented by David Murray. The location is at Pine Street Drive, and the property owner is Olympia and Wright LLC. The request for the variance is from Article 4.3, Table 4.2, 4-2 footnote 1 of the UDO to reduce the front setback from 30 feet to 7 feet, which is a 23-foot reduction. This is a vicinity map image. The property is highlighted in green. Behind it is I-77 and I-85, and it's surrounded by single-family residential. In the zoning map, the zoning is N1C, Neighborhood 1 zoning district. Just another aerial map view. Close up, you can see a lot is vacant and that I-77 is behind it. This is a street view. As you can see, there's a buffer between the vacant lot and the neighboring property. The bird's eye view. This request is a variance to reduce the front setback from 30 feet to 7 feet, a 23-foot reduction, with the condition that only a single-family dwelling and associated accessory structures are permitted. This is a recorded plat of 1961, and you can see that there's lots 4, 5, and 6. This is before the I-77 construction. And there's a 30-foot front setback. I did want to mention per table 4.2, the required front setback in N1C is 17 feet. However, per footnote 1 to table 4-2, the 30-foot setback shown on the recorded plat supersedes the N1C setback of 17. In this image from 1978, this is the lot that's left over after the I-77 construction from the slide before of 4, 5, and 6 lots. Over here, you can see the proposed home building envelope. There's 2 examples. One with the blue lines show if the variance was not approved, that's the building envelope they would have. But in the green lines, you can see if the variance was approved, the proposed home would fit in that building envelope. Other constraints on the site in gray shading is easements on the property. Here are the 4 standards for granting a variance. All 4 standards have to be met in order for the variance to be approved. Unnecessary hardships would result from the strict application of the ordinance because of the lack of depth of the property and the number of easements restricting the building envelope. The hardship does result from conditions that are peculiar to the property because of the shape of the lot, and the site has multiple easements that restrict the building envelope. The hardship does not result from actions taken by the applicant. It results from the lot configuration and easement constraints. The requested variance is consistent with the spirit, purpose, and intent of the zoning ordinance in that the public safety is secured and substantial justice is achieved. The variance would allow the construction of a single-family home, and granting the variance would not adversely affect the adjacent or contiguous properties. Granting the variance would not alter the essential character of the neighborhood, and the applicant has agreed to the proposed condition of building a single-family home. And here is the vacant lot and the posted sign that we put there. And that's the end of the presentation.
Right, so make sure we stay in our lane here. You can put restrictions on what they build. Because they could build a triplex, in other words, right, in the zoning. Correct? But you're making a limitation on them that they can only build a single family.
They offered up that, so when they applied,
So staff is not limiting them?
we did not specifically request, we made sure that they agreed to that, and that's what we were understanding, that we were on the same page with them, but when they applied, they made that, specification that would be for a single family.
And board member Shea, the applicant is here and can speak to that if the board requires them to do so.
Understand my way. Right. The 3 cases ago, this board couldn't do any limitations to what could be built on property. And I'm trying to find out if you guys are limiting that. You're saying that they volunteered to limit it and you are just holding them to that agreement, correct? Okay.
And so if we approve this variance, they can't come back and say we want to build something else because they've agreed to a single family home.
I guess they could come back and say, well, we changed our mind, we want to do it this way now, and they would need to modify. That's what this all.
I couldn't see clearly on, so what is the building pad gonna be with the approved variance? Is it 30 by 30 feet by how long?
30 by 27.
30 by 27, okay.
Was this over by Statesville? Yeah, I don't know.
By the, it'd be off like LaSalle, right where the interstate I-77 and 85 meet.
Yeah.
It's also the same.
Because you see, that's the on-ramp to 77.
And this, I mean, the peculiar shape of this property is because they took the property when they built. I mean, I'm trying to figure out how we ended up with all these crazy shaped properties.
do.
I mean, but that's the, They-
buy.
yeah.
They buy just
so
as much as-
basically
Redlining.
the DOT or interstate people did that when they just said, we want this and swath and here's what you have left. Okay.
What's
Red
the
line.
height, the maximum height they can build for that?
48 feet is the maximum in the neighborhood one zoning district.
Okay, 28 feet, right?
48.
48.
48.
Any other questions for staff?
Another question is, so in the grayed out area, where can they put the driveway?
Those are showing as a storm drainage easement and a sewer easement, so it would be up to those specific utility maintenance and providers as to what sorts of encroachments they would allow in those areas. Is it possible that they might put driveway or parking pads over some of the edges of the easements? Typically, they would not be allowed to put it directly over where the pipes are, and they would have to know that potentially some of their driveway could get ripped up, maintenance had to occur. But there is space to the left of the proposed house or building envelope there that they probably could fit in a driveway between basically the easement and the proposed
Right.
house.
Got it, because the driveway has to be 8 or 10 feet long,
10-foot wide minimum.
10-foot wide minimum. And is there a length minimum?
I don't think there is for single family residential.
No, other than, unless you have a sidewalk, there's not.
Okay, thanks.
Just for clarity's sake, if they put anything other than single family, they're gonna have to come back before this board to get that variance.
Yeah, board grants the variance with the condition that to be able to do anything other than a single family home, they would have to come back and get a modification.
Any other questions? Okay,
Motion to approve.
all right.
Second,
Mr. Williamson and Mr. Shea. All right, and Mr. Young,
Young, yes.
Mr. Sun,
Son, yes.
Mr. Shea,
Shay, yes.
Mr. Williamson,
Williamson, yes.
Dryden, yes, to approve the variance. I'm sorry your property was so cut up. That's awful that we do that. All right, to approve the finding of facts and conclusions of law, do I hear a
Madam
motion?
Chair,
Yes.
prior to the board making a motion, we would offer an amendment to
Okay.
finding of fact number 21.
Yes,
It currently reads, the applicant has agreed to the proposed condition. To better reflect the testimony, we would propose that the board agreed to change that to the applicant has offered and agreed the following condition, and then just listing the condition on the front that states only a single family detached dwelling and accessory structures, structures shall be permitted on the lot.
okay.
Like
So
that.
did you get that, Mr. Kinley? Okay, so we have amended number 21 to say that the applicant has agreed. I'm sorry, the applicant has offered and agreed to the condition of single-family dwelling on the property. Thank you. Okay. Now, do I hear a motion to approve the finding of facts and conclusions of law as amended?
Motion to approve.
I second.
Done? Do I hear a second?
I second.
All right, Mr. Williamson,
Williamson, yes.
Mr. Shea,
Sure, yes.
Ms. Sun,
Sun, yes.
Mr. Young,
Young, yes.
Dryden, yes. Finding of facts and conclusions of law are approved as amended. All right, we need to quickly look at our minutes from the May 29th meeting. There are only two things that I saw on page 5. My name was spelled wrong twice, but I've already pointed that out to Ms. Lampley, and she'll correct that. So do I hear a motion to approve the minutes from the May 29th meeting?
I have one question
Yes, sir.
first, and that was under the
Page
first,
four.
page 4, yeah.
Page 4, okay,
This is the, I'm sorry, it's actually in page 5, but
okay,
the case is
right,
8337 Reedy Creek Road.
right.
The conclusion of law says the hardship does result from the actions of the applicant. Is that what we meant to say? Because in the second case, which is on page 7, we say the hardship does not result. I want to make sure I'm
See where I have my,
remembering this
from that
correctly.
case.
It should read does not. This was,
Page 5, law number 3 should say does not, correct?
correct. If I remember correctly, these were the cases where the property, the foundation was laid
Right, right.
further back or to the front, and the board found that the applicant met the conditions for a variety of reasons. We did
So-
spend some time amending them, so they should say does not result, because
Okay,
that's
so
what the
number
board
3 under
found.
conclusions of law should read, the hardship does not result,
Then number 4, the requested variance is consistent.
is consistent, right? Thank you. Did you get those, guys?
Number 3, no,
Adding the word not to number 3. On page 5, the hardship does not result, and then in number 4, you're removing the word not. The request variance is consistent, okay?
we need to modify. I was looking up the top of number 13, it's already got on.
Yeah, the number 13, yeah, that's correct, so. Thank you, and that's the same place where my name was misspelled, and they'll correct that. Okay, all right. Thank you, Mr. Shea, for catching that. All right, let's try this again. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Some motion to approve.
Thank you, Ms. Sun. Second,
I second.
thank you, Mr. Young. All right. Mr. Williamson,
Williamson, yes.
Mr. Shea,
Shay, yes.
Ms. Sun,
Sun, yes.
Mr. Young?
Young, yes.
And Dryden, yes, with the corrections that we made. The minutes are approved. All right. This concludes our meeting for today. Thank you for joining us. Have a nice day.